I want to share my recovery from active addiction in 3 parts. This is part 3. The second part is how I find recovery and what I did to stay clean and work on my recovery. This is part 3. It's about difficulties in recovery and how that sustained me. After 60 years of active addiction and escape behavior from the age of 9, I found recovery. The flip side of addiction is connection. Addiction is always in a hiding secret, a secretive secret, hiding myself. Susan asked, are you going to clean out the shed already? Or the shed again? But the shed was a place to isolate myself and use secretly out of shame, hoping she didn't see me. Powerless. Positive and negative power. A positive and a negative power. Step 1. Am I powerless over my addiction? Everything in my head, there was a moment that I woke up at 5 o'clock, maybe I was looking at the ceiling the whole night, but I came out of bed to go to work. I worked as an electrician. I felt myself real bad. I said to myself, I not want to do it anymore. I want to quit it. I want to quit it. I want to stop it. And in my head, that addiction talked to me. That same voice talked to me. I knew a relief for you. Call your dealer. I said, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I want to quit it. I want to quit it. And I drove to my work and I'm working over there and I feel myself real bad, and the same voice comes in my ear talking to me to have a relief, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. I want to quit it. I want to quit it. I want to quit it. The same thought came again. I said, no, I'm not gonna do it. And then I'm sitting in the car with 3 other colleagues, and then the same voice comes again, and about recognition I was calling my dealer again, and then I run to the corner and then I was calling him again, and then he said, if you start calling me again, I don't come. I said, yeah, I'm in rest, calm. And then he came, and then I felt the same again the next morning when I woke up. I come in 12-step groups and then I start staying clean. And that addiction, all of me is screaming in my body that I don't want to use again, but there was something that made me use again. So the negative power is addiction and gets me use again, but I don't want it. And then in recovery I come in and then I get clean. There's something going on in that meeting that kept me clean. There's something positive, a positive power. So the people over there and the positive power. So that's also step 2 and 3. That I won't believe that there is something doing then. Because it doesn't work out for me for 60 years. And now I come in recovery and I stay clean. So there's something outside of me. There's something outside of me that gets me clean. And when I saw that, it helped me a lot. This brings us to step 2, step 3 and step 11. The positive power is a higher power and an anchor outside of myself that can keep me clean. Possible search for the perfect picture, because I wanted to have an SMS, a telephone or a WhatsApp from my higher power. Hey Koen, you found me. That doesn't work like that. Thank God I found peace in it after 10 years of searching and was able to put my life, my will and my life over in the hands of God. What I think it's important, whatever the reason to each person to choose recovery and to want to be free of addiction is a good reason. Some people think it's doomed to fail if people do it for another person, like for their wife or children. But for me, the reason was the goal of going for children, to choose to bring up some children. and to get clean for that goal. The reason turned into a goal for doing it myself after we get bad news when I was 2 years clean. Because when I was 1 year clean, we started to go work for the children. And then Susan didn't get pregnant. We initiated tests, and from that came a message that hurt a lot. The message that I am infertile and cannot have children. God, thank you God, that's from my birth and not from my addiction. I might not have been able to forgive myself for that. Our world collapsed before our eyes. But the people in recovery get us through this. Susan was afraid of relapse. Also, people around us were surprised that I didn't go back to using alcohol or drugs. That would not suddenly make me fertile. No, I would lose all that I had built up in those 2 years. Drugs and alcohol was not a solution for problems and will never be. The love, support and encouragement from the fellows, our sponsors and loved ones has given us strength and dragged us through it. We will never forget that. Then we pursued several other avenues to fulfill our desire for children, but we acknowledgedly grew further and further apart as a result. My enthusiastic about the 12-step programs, about hospitalization. In addiction, I became seriously ill in 2012, ignoring all the alarm signals from my body with the thoughts it's probably a flu and it will pass on. No! In the beginning I shared with fellows, but at a certain point I did it my own way. This because my head was told me the fellows are not waiting for my complaining. Thank God I didn't relapse. I was hospitalized with emergency and had multiplied surgeries. I shared that I was an addict, and that is why they took into account the administration of medication. In the hospital I got sicker and sicker and it got worse. Now there are online meetings and there were none then. A fellow friend who's no longer with us came to visit me into the hospital and he asked me, do you need a meeting? Everything in me is burning for a meeting. But I say no because I don't want to be complaining for other fellows. And then he walks out of my room in the hospital and I see Susan, and Susan is sitting in her own 12-step groups for people next to an addict. And she said to him, he needs a meeting. And after 2 days, that guy from the fellowship, a friend of mine, called me. He said to me, and he said, arrange a room in the hospital with coffee and tea, because we're gonna go have a meeting at your place in the hospital. Because if you can't go to a meeting, we come to you to have a meeting. And there were a lot of guys coming to that room, to that meeting in the hospital, and 2 people from the fellowship were carrying me because I was too weak to walk by myself. I only lasted in half an hour, but that love and that strength of fellowship brought me back fighting for my recovery and sickness. The following week, all kinds of people visiting me and even more people at the second meeting at the hospital by the word of mouth. When I came home to lie in the living room with a raised bed, fellows from my area around came with chairs to sit around my bed for a meeting. Speechless. Getting together what I absolutely could not do on my own. Wow. Step 12. Getting the message out of that is very important. to get the message out in clinics, here, one-on-one, over the 3 years in prison, volunteering with inmates who want to recover from addiction. I have since September 2020 a YouTube channel where I may share videos on recovery, how I walked recovery, and created an email address, so people has connected me, and so they went after connecting me to 12-step groups, to clinics. Wow! Wow! I'm so very happy and thankful that I found the meetings and loved ones. That also Susan can go to their meetings. I feel myself honored to be able to share my experience with others of all that has been so freely given to me. Because in the beginning, when I went to recovery, when I went to meetings, there were people who were 6-7 years clean, they were not sober or clean, were not there into the program for themselves. They were there to reach their hand for the newcomer. If they were not there at that moment, where should I have been now? And with this thankfulness in my heart, I make these videos to share the gospel, the good news that there is hope for for every addict, that recovery is possible. If you want to be connected with me, use the email address at the end of this video. What I just shared is the power of the fellowship. But then, this is the end of part 3. You can also look at part 1 and 2. Thank you so much that I may have made this video. Thank you for watching. Be and stay blessed.